All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's NASP, National Association of Sales Professionals Community Question of the Week. That's a mouthful. All right, so let's jump right into it. The question of the week that came in from our community is this, one of the questions. I keep finding myself not making important sales calls. What can I do to get over that? I keep finding myself not making the important sales calls. What can I do to get over that? Looking forward to hearing what Michelle has to say on this. So the first thing that comes to my mind is accountability. One of the most leveraged investments that I believe we can make and that I've been really seeing play out in my life is an investment in accountability. So Rod talks about this in some of our programs. There's a natural psychological phenomenon in humans that this might sound a little crazy, but we will do more for others, like to help other people, to help a group, to support a nation, whatever it is, versus what we will do on our own. And what that basically means to me is that when we have accountability to take more action from another or a team or a group or a company or whatever it is, we're able to kind of have more energy to take more action than if we're just doing it for ourselves, really deeper purpose. So the first answer that comes to mind is this is a great time. It sounds like you're currently in the habit of not making the important sales calls. This is a great time to invest in accountability for a habit building period of time, at least 30 to 60 days of getting into the habit of consistently making those important sales calls. So that becomes part of your identity. Identity is the strongest force in human nature. We've got to kind of condition it in there. So Michelle, that's the first thought that really comes to mind for me when I read that question. And,
didn't want to cut you off. Get a little.
Would love to hear what you have to say.
So one, thank you for holding down the fort, everyone. It's good to be back. I missed last week due to a little bit of illness, and curious to hear like if that's the first thought, what the second thought is. Sometimes you almost feel like you're being set up there. It's one of the questions I always ask people is, what is important to you, right? So everybody has a different definition of important. Is it important to you? Is it important to the company? Is it important to your sales bottom line? So how are you defining important, right? And how long has this behavior been subsisting? There are two things that'll go into play here when you're looking at something of the nature of what you have defined as I'm missing making some important calls. So in there's been a ongoing conversation internally that I'm not doing what I want to do, right? So you're in that place of what we almost call shame, right? It's a sales shame, right? You're constantly telling yourself that you're not doing what you want to do to get the result that you believe you can get. So the question is, why are you not doing what you know you need to do? So it goes back to what is the vision of success? Everything I always go back ties to the vision. How strong is the vision and how much do you actually believe in this vision that you created for your success? Because it might require some modifying or some tweaking of that original vision to see, because the vision is that this is what I've decided I want. And in the process of acquiring what I want, I must become this person. Because when I decide to become the person who has what I say I want, life gets a lot easier. I'm not struggling to do anymore. I'm actually, just as Rick said, I'm in the identity of who this person is. I am going through the process of creating the behaviors, the self-talk, and the habits of becoming this amazing top performing sales person, right? So what is that vision? Why are these calls being considered important to you? And then once you go back and you have that, if you've already done this on your own, this is the time to leverage a community, leverage a coach, leverage a mentor. The one thing I remind people is that you've decided you want a success that doesn't currently exist, right? You said that these calls are important to you. You're not making them. You don't know why you're making them. So now you're in that space of the unknown, right? The uncertainty, the uncomfortable. You are attempting to create what doesn't exist and never existed. So you're attempting to teach yourself something you don't currently know. And the fastest way what successful and wealthy people know, the quickest way to any result is to hire an expert, right? Look at athleticism. Every time athleticism and business results, this is why these analogies go hand in hand. This is why when you're at any top performing company and they bring in that speaker, they start doing athletic analogies. They start telling you stories about, Wayne Gretzky and about, Michael Jordan, because it's not the fact of what they don't do, it's the fact of what they've invested in their mindset, so that allows them to go outside of their comfort zone and create the success that they want, regardless of circumstances. So to what Rick has said, I agree 100%. It's leveraging those skills in that community. So we have a mastermind community. We have coaches who are masterful. We have, a CEO and all these masters of sales that are available to you, and know that we're not the only one. Look at what it is you want overall, and then you step into creating the habits. It's not just about what you're not doing, it's about why you're not doing it. So Rick?
Yep, I love that. So Rod, the CEO, who you know from the certification or sales mastery, he said the other day that sales professionals and leaders, sales leaders in general, are really influence athletes, which ties so well into what Michelle was just saying, is that, we're athletes of influence, constantly developing our strength and endurance in the muscle of influence, which is the ability to create a win-win situation for both parties. So love that. And the one other thing that just, I love that Michelle said this, was how do you define important? Because when people ask you a question, they actually, in a lot of times, share their beliefs and their current paradigm of thinking. So what this question, the paradigm that this question is sharing, is that I know what important is, and that I'm not making the important sales calls, and jumping into how do you define important. Hopefully it's what's going to make the most revenue, although even when I say that, the other conflicting thought is what's going to be the biggest win-win for a company and have significant revenue, because maybe the absolute top revenue, you could justify some of the lower calls as being important. But yeah, defining what's important, and because then you can really know that you are making the important calls only when you know what the definition is for important. So thank you for adding that, Michelle. And those are all my thoughts. Michelle, anything else that you'd like to add?
I would say this has been a great call, just to reinforce some of the things that I know I love the most about the work that I do with the National Association of Sales Professional, and that's the combination of the psychology and the strategy of selling. It's never simply just going out and doing, right? Because as this question has so well prefaced, I know what I need to do, ought to do, should be doing, and I'm not doing it. So why am I not doing it? And that goes back to the psychology, and that's what we are masterful at. And that's what makes the work we do so fun.
Love it, love it. And even in the question, I keep finding myself not making the important sales calls. Does that mean you're making other sales calls that you're considering not important? So these are the other questions that come to mind.
Right.
How many calls are you making? So thank you for tuning in to this week's NASP community question. If you've not done so already, click the link above to join the association, and also the link above to take advantage of the seller style assessment. There's a complimentary seller style assessment, which is a great tool for you right now to find out what your next area of growth in your influence is. The assessment tells you your current selling style and your ideal selling style, and kind of where that gap is. And maybe they're the same and you are already absolutely on top of your game, and that might be nice to know and get a little bit of reinforcement. So still take the seller style assessment. And then also, in joining the membership, you get to take advantage of our resources calls, our newsletter, reminders about webinars, reminders about these lives, etc. So join the association, and we look forward to talking with you at the same time next week with next week's community question. Thanks a lot, everyone.